There have been continuous violations of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza by Hamas, and the IDF is responding. In Lebanon, Hezbollah trembles in fear of the IDF, and now their leader, Naim Qassem, has said it out loud. On the Iranian front, there is news that the man who served as the main bridge between the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps and Hamas is the next target of Israeli intelligence. There are also fresh revelations that Iran worked together with North Korea to secretly develop long-range missiles to deliver a nuclear payload. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian unveiled an example of these new missiles in Tehran this week. But is it really a functional weapon, or is it merely a mock-up? Meanwhile, the IDF is preparing for a possible surprise in Syria and staying fully engaged in Judea and Samaria. In fact, in the Samaria sector, Operation Iron Wall is expanding as the IDF, Shin Bet, and Border Police continue their counter-terror operations. And meanwhile, Emily Damari, who was released last week from Hamas captivity, opened a Pandora's box with her testimony about the collision between Hamas and UNRWA. Her testimony, along with other returned hostages, prompted European Parliament members from 14 countries to write an official letter to the United Nations Secretary General demanding an investigation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington, D.C. this week for a series of meetings with senior officials, including President Donald Trump. Negotiations for a Stage B of a ceasefire agreement with Hamas are underway, and Israel has cards it can play in these negotiations, and we'll tell you all about them. We have a lot to discuss about today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on day 486 of the war with Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shiite militias in Iraq, and the armed groups in Judea and Samaria. All of them are taking their orders from Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps, which is the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. A moment before we begin, I want to invite you to click that subscribe button so that you stay tuned to the truth in real time and never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Also, I want to introduce you to our sponsor for today's video, Artza. Artza is a company here in Israel that brings handcrafted gifts from the Holy Land right to your door. By subscribing to Artza, you're blessing your own life, and you're also helping sustain jobs and small businesses here in Israel. I'll tell you more about them later on in the video. In this report, I also want to give you a chance to be part of something very powerful. Israel is rebuilding after unimaginable destruction. Acres of forests were lost in the fires, but together we can restore what was taken. So stay tuned to find out how you can make a lasting impact and help renew the land of Israel. You won't want to miss this. Now, let's get into the news. Satellite images obtained by the Washington Post revealed that the IDF is constructing an outpost or a military base in the buffer zone between Israel and Syria, located on the Syrian territory. The report, including the photos, was published on Sunday, and it also included other details. So far, at least 2 compounds have been spotted about 5 kilometers apart, each one containing more than 6 buildings surrounded by a wall, as well as some vehicles. The compounds are connected to each other by a newly laid dirt road. According to the Washington Post, it appears that these 2 sites are intended to function as forward observation bases and resemble outposts in the Golan region. In addition, it was reported that the satellite images show a new road about 10 kilometers long, paved south of the town of Quneitra. The IDF told the Washington Post very simply that IDF forces operate in southern Syria inside the buffer zone and in strategic locations in order to protect the residents of northern Israel. As a reminder, during the weekend, IDF forces operating in the buffer zone in Syrian territory reported gunfire towards them, and the force operating there returned fire to the area from which it was identified. There were no casualties in this incident, and the forces continued to operate. A claim of responsibility for the incident came from a group which simply referred to itself as the Syrian Resistance. In any case, here at TBN Israel, we'll continue reporting on all the developments on the Syrian front. We ask you to keep spreading the truth, share our videos on YouTube, and follow us on social media. Most importantly, please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, so that you never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Keeping our focus on the northern arena, Hezbollah's Secretary General announced on Sunday that Hassan Nasrallah and his successor, Safi al-Din, will be buried on February 23, about 8 days after Israel's withdrawal from Lebanon. The funeral time and location near the Beirut airport send a signal that they are worried about an Israeli strike on the assembled mourners, which will surely include most of what's left of Hezbollah's senior leadership. The IDF is scheduled to have withdrawn completely from southern Lebanon on February 18th, and it appears that Hezbollah wanted to wait until after that to have a large public gathering. It's important to recall that according to reports in Arab media portals, the IDF was able to track Nasrallah's movements in his final hours because someone who met with him and shook his hand smeared a substance on his hand that allowed Israel to pinpoint a location. I'm not sure how all that spy stuff works, but it sounds very impressive. In any case, the IDF was able to confirm that Nasrallah was in the Dakhia neighborhood headquarters and launched a strike that destroyed the bunker completely where he was hiding. According to the reports, Nasrallah was not terminated by the explosion, rather, he died because the flow of oxygen to the underground layer was cut off. And according to Al Jazeera, his body was recovered with no signs of injury at all. However, the same cannot be said for Beirut, southern Lebanon, and, for that matter, the Galilee region of northern Israel. These areas have suffered terrible damage due to the thousands of rockets, missiles, and drones that Hezbollah fired at Israel over the past 16 months. If you've followed the news about this war, you've probably heard the phrase, "The rocket landed in an open area and caused no casualties," more than once in this war. This phrase is only partially true because many rockets which landed in so-called open areas started fires in wooden areas and agricultural fields, burning fragments from many rockets that were intercepted in mid-air also landed in these areas and started additional fires. So, the Jewish National Fund tells us that nearly 57,000 dunams, which are acres worth of forest areas in northern Israel, were burned, and it will take many years for these forests to recover. But now, we have an opportunity to restore and to rebuild. As we approach Tu B'Shvat, the festival of trees, this is the holiday of planting and renewal, we invite you to take part in a movement of hope and healing. Every tree we are planting represents resilience, faith, and renewal. These trees will rise from the ashes, standing tall as symbols of Israel's strength and determination. Now, it's time for you to take part in this effort. So please visit www.tbn.org/rebuildisrael and make a contribution that will help sow the seeds for a better tomorrow. Your support will directly help replant the land and renew the future of Israel. Because love is stronger than hate, and faith is stronger than destruction. And together, we will rise again. So thank you so much, and now let's get back to the news. Now, we shift our focus back to the Gaza Strip. A vehicle traveling on the coastal route in the Gaza Strip was attacked by an Air Force aircraft on Sunday. This vehicle was driving from the southern part of the Gaza Strip to the north on a route intended for pedestrians only, and the vehicle's driver presumably hoped to avoid the security inspection carried out for vehicles on the route designated for vehicular movement. However, the IDF is enforcing the ceasefire rules with fire, and shots were fired at it. Sources in Gaza report 5 wounded as a result of the strike on the vehicle, including a child that was severely injured. It should be noted that this is not the first such incident. Last week, the IDF and the Air Force acted several times against attempts by Hamas to violate the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and test the limits of the force's enforcement in the field. The IDF is investigating the circumstances of this serious incident. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic front, European Parliament members from 14 countries, including France, Spain, Germany, and the Czech Republic, Italy, the Netherlands, and others, wrote a letter to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres this week following the testimony of the freed Israeli hostages about being held in UNRWA facilities. In their letter, the members of parliament noted, following the release of the Israeli hostages held by Hamas terrorists, various media outlets reported that the hostages were held and are still being held in UNRWA areas and facilities, an agency that you are responsible for. Since UNRWA is also funded by the European budget, we, the members of the European Parliament, representing European countries and different political parties, call on you to put an end to UNRWA's actions, which go against the UN's neutrality. According to the agency, UNRWA has violated all its commitments and assisted a terrorist organization in holding and hiding hostages, a fact that must be denounced politically, morally, and legally. This letter is the result of a sequence of events that began last Friday as Emily Damari, who returned home about 2 weeks ago from Hamas captivity, spoke with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Emily and her mother, Mandy, revealed that she was held for some time in UNRWA facilities and was denied access to medical treatment. An expired bottle of iodine was all that was provided to her during her difficult ordeal, even though she lost 2 fingers on her left hand on October 7 and carried a gunshot wound that hadn't healed in her leg. The two asked the Prime Minister to apply maximum pressure on Hamas and UNRWA so that the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, would finally be granted access to the remaining 82 hostages that are still held in captivity in the Gaza Strip. During the conversation, the Prime Minister inquired about Emily's condition after her return, and Mandy replied that it seems that she's doing fairly well psychologically, though she faces a long road ahead given her physical injuries. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on every development on this matter. Please keep spreading the truth, share, and follow us. As we report from TBN Israel, there is a ceasefire for now on our northern and southern borders, but no one knows how long it will hold. In the meantime, the people of Israel are hard at work rebuilding and recovering. Areas near the Gaza Strip and the Lebanese border have been hit especially hard, with businesses and families struggling to get back on their feet. So if you've been wondering how you can support Israel during this very difficult time, here's a meaningful way to make an impact. Even if you can't visit just yet, you can still bring a piece of Israel into your home. Artza Box is a subscription box that showcases the best of Israel, handcrafted items, delicious foods, and unique treasures made by local artisans. The name Artza means towards the land in Hebrew, and it reflects the heart of this initiative, connecting you with the people and the stories of Israel. Each Artza box is packed with care, offering not just a gift for yourself or your loved ones, but hope and encouragement for the artisans and small businesses of Israel. So visit www.artzabox.com and use our exclusive 10% discount code TBNIL to order your box today. Together, we can share blessings with Israel and spread a message of hope. Thank you, and now let's return to the news. Documents captured by IDF forces operating in the Gaza Strip and Lebanon indicate that Saeed Izadi, also known as Haj Ramzan, is the man who led the Palestinian branch of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps Quds Force. He was involved in planning the October 7 attacks, arms smuggling, and tightening links among terror organizations in the Middle East. Now, the Israeli intelligence have made this evil man the focus of their activities, and so his days are probably numbered. Simultaneously, Iran, in partnership with North Korea, has secretly developed ballistic missiles capable of carrying a nuclear payload and with a range of about 2,900 kilometers. This is according to a report this week by the British Daily Telegraph news portal. According to the Iranian opposition group NCRI, the Revolutionary Guards are running two secret facilities disguised as satellite launch sites, but in fact are used for developing and producing nuclear-capable ballistic missile. Meanwhile, Iran is openly displaying its missile capabilities to the world. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian presided over a ceremony on Sunday in which he unveiled the Itmad ballistic missile, which has a range of 1,700 kilometers, declaring that his nation's defensive power is strong enough to prevent an external attack. Supreme Leader Khamenei added in his speech at this event that Gaza forced Israel to surrender, and he also claimed that Hezbollah proved its strength despite opponents thinking it had been eliminated. I've said before in these reports that it's impossible to build something positive on a foundation of lies, deceit, and gaslighting. I doubt that anyone in Iran's regime is watching this video, but in case they are, even by accident, I hope they take this very seriously. Iran has been a country for thousands of years, and they've had many different rulers in that time. Some were good, some were not so good, but what they've got now is a complete disaster, and I think that the people of that country deserve better. In any case, here at TBN Israel, we will continue reporting on every development in the Iranian arena, which is the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. As always, we ask you to help us by spreading the truth, share our videos on YouTube, and follow us on social media. Most importantly, don't forget to click that subscribe button so that you stay tuned to the truth in real time and unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem. I'd also like to remind you that in between videos, you can visit our website, tbnisrael.com, to see news updates and analysis. Now, we switch our focus to Washington, D.C., the American capital where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu landed on Sunday morning for a series of meetings with senior U.S. officials in Congress and the Trump administration. At the top of the agenda for these meetings is the second stage of the hostage deal with Hamas. Those around Netanyahu clarify that Israel will not accept any demand to end the war, and if negotiations fail, the IDF is prepared to renew combat in Gaza in an offensive format far beyond the previous raids. As part of efforts to strengthen Israel's position in negotiations, Netanyahu is considering changes in the senior command of the IDF. Among others, Major General Roman Goffman, the Prime Minister's military secretary, has been mentioned as a candidate to be the commander of the Southern Command of Israel. This, of course, follows Saturday's announcement that Defense Minister, Director General Major General Eyal Zamir will replace IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi when he steps down next week. Shortly after landing in Washington, the Prime Minister immediately began preliminary talks with President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff. He's scheduled to meet with President Trump at the White House on Tuesday with a few main topics on the agenda, including in those topics are plans to continue the battle against Iran and its nuclear program and the possibility of expanding the regional peace by signing a normalization agreement with Saudi Arabia. Also expected to be discussed is Trump's proposal to facilitate a mass evacuation of population from Gaza as an alternative to continued Hamas rule in that location. According to political sources, Netanyahu believes that the significant concessions Israel made in the first stage of the deal, releasing security prisoners and withdrawing forces from the northern part of the Gaza Strip, will allow now a broad American backing for Israel's terms in the second stage. Yet it appears that for any Hamas violation, the IDF could respond with full force. So please, keep praying for the people of Israel and pray for our leaders to be able to make difficult decisions in a godly way. Pray for our hostages in Gaza who are held by Hamas, and keep praying for Israel. Pray for our soldiers wherever they are, in Syria, in Lebanon, in the Gaza Strip, or in Judea and Samaria. And most importantly, don't forget to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And together, we will win this war because God is on our side.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.